Hey mom, today we're going to talk about something that comes up all the time when I hear from women, both from my website and on my email and newsletter. I always ask, what is your number one struggle with fitness and nutrition? Because it's super, super important to me to understand who my audience is, who is coming to me for help. And I really want to provide all of the solutions that these women are looking for. Number one question that I get is, how do I solve my nighttime eating problem? And there's a couple things at play. I want to launch right into it because, of course, this is a 15-minute episode, and I want to give you the tools so that you can walk away today, tonight, whenever, this week, and implement these tools to see what works for you. All right, so what is the reason why we are overeating at night? The main reason that comes up for me, and the thing that I see within my former way of fueling myself, and also in the way that my clients are approaching their nutrition, by the time we get to the evening, we are exhausted. We are mentally exhausted. And if you are a mom and you are also juggling everybody in your household schedules, you are feeding everyone and every being, like pets included, you're feeding everyone and everything, you are managing everyone's schedules, you're getting people to where they need to be, maybe you're leaving the home and going to your job, maybe you're managing the childcare provider, all sorts of things are running through your brain. I mean, I just got out of an hour-long session of planning my kids' springtime activities, and my mind was spinning. So, and that wasn't even anything having to do with my personal schedule. That was my kids' schedule. And I only have 2 kids, and they don't have that many activities. But I was thinking, all right, how does this integrate within my work schedule? When can I get to this? Can I get, what's the commute going to be like? All that stuff. So I get it. You're mentally exhausted by the time you get to the evening. And so what typically happens is we have so much mental fatigue that we're less inclined to want to make good choices. And so when we have the inkling that we feel a little bit hungry after dinner, and we look back on the day and we realize how healthy we've been eating all day long, we're like, you know what? I deserve this. I'm going to sit down on the couch and I'm going to eat whatever it is that I want to eat. Maybe it's like your kids' snacks, or maybe it's ice cream. Whatever it is, you feel like you just don't have the mental power to say no to yourself. I don't actually think that you have to say no to yourself, but I do want to give you some solutions for how you might be able to get ahead of this so that you are not feeling like this nighttime eating pattern needs to continue for you, or that it has so much power over you. So here's a couple ways to take back your power. One of the reasons why you might be triggered to eat, aside from the mental fatigue that you might have from the day, is you're not fueling yourself enough throughout the day. So what I often see is that women are under eating throughout the day. Like, I'm talking 250 calorie breakfast, maybe no breakfast, maybe like a 300 calorie lunch. I'm thinking they take in maybe 600, 700 calories by the time they get to their dinner. That's not enough. If you're under fueling and you're under eating with the guise of telling yourself that you're eating healthy, you are not actually giving yourself the chance to fill up and to be energized off of the food that you're eating. And if you are full and energized throughout the day, you are not as inclined in the evening to have a blood sugar crash, to have your cortisol pretty high. Your stress hormone might raise if you're skipping meals. You might not be as hungry and triggered to eat in the evening. So here are a couple things that you could do. I want you to up your protein. And most women that come to me are probably eating 50 to 70 grams of protein a day. I want you eating 100 or more. In fact, if you're working out, I'd love for you to be eating almost a gram of protein for every pound of body weight on your body. So if you're 150 pounds, you want to eat 150 grams of protein. Now, I know that that's a lot, because if you're eating 50 to 70 right now, you're like, oh my gosh, how do I even get there? So shoot for 100. I think 100 is a really good baseline for most of my clients. And so if you're actually fueling yourself on protein, what you're doing is you're eating food that sticks around for longer in your gut. Protein is one of the hardest foods for your body to break down. It takes longer. It takes more metabolic potential to break down protein. And so what you're doing is you're giving your body sustainable energy for the day. You're also making sure that you're positively impacting your hunger hormones. So we have hunger hormones that sit in our gut and in our stomach. And those hunger hormones, if you don't eat enough, they're never going to turn off. So your brain will never get the message that you're not actually hungry anymore and that you don't need to be looking for food. And so if you don't want to be hungry at night, the best thing that you can do is start eating more protein in regular meal fashion throughout the day. So eat more protein, but also eat your meals. So most of the time what we do, my clients are really happy that they're not hungry in the morning. So they're super happy about it because they don't want to be taking in more food. Everybody's on this quest to eat less calories. And so they're really excited that they're not eating breakfast. But then in the early afternoon or late afternoon around lunchtime, they get ravenous and maybe they want to look for sandwich or pizza or something that they may not have chosen if they actually ate breakfast and if they actually got ahead of their hunger a little bit earlier on in the day. So if we're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe even not snacking if we don't need to, we're going to set ourselves up so that we keep our hunger and our energy and our cravings in balance so that in the evening time, once we sit down on the couch and we have less mental power to say no to triggers to eat something less healthy, we are feeling more energized and we don't actually feel those hunger pangs. Now, the other thing to consider is the fact that in the evening, we might actually not be hungry. This might be a ritual for us to eat. I know for me that happens all the time. And I actually, in the way that some people count calories or count macros, I account for the fact that my ritual is to have a little snacky snack at night. And I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but I'm also not going to not account for it during the day. So if you're someone who counts macros, you might get this pattern that you're eating a certain percentage of your overall macronutrients, your protein, your fat, and your starch. You're keeping track of each of those macronutrients. And so if I want to have a serving of chips at night, I might not eat as many carbs throughout the day. Maybe I'll save just a little bit of carbs for after my workout. I won't eat them for breakfast. I won't eat them for lunch, but I'll know that I'm going to eat my chips later on in the night. Chips are my thing, if you didn't know. I put chips on everything. I am very into a salty crunch, but I can't have them earlier in the day or else I crave more starch. So I account for my chips at night. Now, I don't let this stuff get out of control. I don't overeat at night, but I know that I'm going to be having my chips. Now, this is a tool that I use with my fat loss nutrition clients, and it's called an empowered indulgence. So it's called an EI. And so what I'm doing here is I'm planning for that indulgence. The reason why it's called an indulgence, like I wouldn't necessarily call chips an indulgence, but if you're someone who's seeking fat loss, chips are probably not on your plan, right? So in essence, it is a non-fat loss food. So I call it my empowered indulgence because I am empowering myself to use that as a daily staple to buffer those feelings of restriction and deprivation. And so I account for those chips later on in the night. Now, here's one thing to keep in mind if you are someone who is going to use an empowered indulgence at night. Maybe your empowered indulgence might be something like cocoa is actually really great to satisfy that pleasure pathway in the brain. So a lot of my clients use this at night. But what they don't do is replace these calories that they should have been eating during the day to get really good nutrition and good micronutrients. They don't replace those calories with this chocolate. So I don't want you to not eat all day so that you can eat whatever you want at night. That's not the goal, right? Because we know if we want to hold on to lean muscle mass, we need to be eating protein. We want to be eating vegetables for all of the micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, all those things that keep our cells and our body happy. So we don't want to trade calories from good foods for our empowered indulgences at night. We just want to account for them. So eat your normal meals, but maybe you skip your afternoon snack so that you can have a little bit of an evening snack. Also, maybe we can reframe the evening ritual to eat. So, a lot of times my clients have a problem with sleeping at night or falling to sleep at night. And a lot of this has to do with our cortisol. And so, one trick that I use with my clients is actually giving them starch before they go to bed so that they're able to release insulin, and insulin helps to reduce cortisol. And we don't get that, what might happen around that 2 a.m. time when our cortisol is out of whack, our stress hormone is out of whack, and it raises our adrenaline. And our adrenaline wakes us up, and then we have a hard time going back to sleep. So sometimes if we eat starch at night, that helps us to manage that cortisol so that we can sleep restfully all night long. So maybe you could say to yourself, I'm going to allow myself a snack at night, or maybe a little bit of oatmeal before I go to bed, or something that's going to help me to feel full and go to sleep nicely. If we go to sleep on an empty stomach and we're miserable, then maybe we do deserve to have something at night. Now, this one's a little controversial because I hear a lot of healthy lifestyle coaches or food obsession coaches talking about the fact that the best way to solve a binge relationship with food is to actually have the foods that trigger you around in your house so that you can have a better relationship with those foods. And you can practice the abundance mindset of this food is always available to me, so I never have to binge on it because it's always around. And so while I love that, I don't think that's the best place to start. So if you have food that triggers you to overeat or triggers you to eat when you're not hungry, that is in your house, in your freezer, in your cabinet, I want you to take it out of your house for a while. So don't have it as readily available. So the key thing for me in taking these foods, these trigger foods, out of our physical space is to enforce to us that there are other ways, healthier options that we can choose that actually might be tastier. So a lot of times what we're doing with the foods that we're triggered into eating and overeating is we are escaping into the foods. And I'm going to be super vulnerable and tell you that this is what I do often. So if I probably every couple weeks, I'll have my husband pick up candy from the store, or I'll find myself a couple handfuls into eating something from the cabinet and I'll just be like, I'm not even hungry. I'm just eating out of anxiety. I'm eating out of stress. And that's something that I'm constantly working on. And so this is, if we're not aware that we do this, I think it's really important that we take away the things that we escape into. So we take away the things that we're escaping into and we allow ourselves other methods to escape. And maybe not escape, but to be in the emotion of it. Something that's been working for me lately is when I find myself going over to eat to solve some sort of anxiety I have over work or overwhelm or any sort of feeling that I have where eating might be the solution for me to escape. I tend to sit down, I take a couple deep breaths, and I do a brain dump on a piece of paper. And I get in touch with the feelings that I'm feeling at that moment, why I'm doing it, how I feel, what I'm escaping. And it becomes this disruptor in the pattern of going to the cabinet that helps me to, number one, not avoid the problem and to work past why I'm feeling overwhelmed and to find solutions there, but also to be like, all right, I could take care of myself right here in this moment. I can go for a walk. I can go take a bath. I can clean up a drawer in my house. I can do something else that releases that dopamine, that feel-good hormone that makes me feel good, but is not stuffing my face with food. If we get good at that, we can really get to the core of it. So this is different than having a better relationship with the junk food. It's really about how we're solving the feeling that we have before we go and reach for food. Because sometimes it's really not about just wanting that food, it's about escaping. So my solution is, my offer to you is to sit with whatever you're feeling in that moment for just a second. You don't need to do the journaling piece, but I do want you to just get present and get aware, because that's super important if you're going to work past the ritual of eating at night, which sometimes has nothing to do with hunger. Okay, so that was a quick one for you on how to avoid eating at night. I know for moms who come to me, It's overwhelming to have kids at your feet all day long. And so when you finally get time and space to yourself and you start thinking about the things that maybe you wish you accomplished for yourself during the day, you could feel overwhelmed by that. And then the best thing to do is just sit down on the couch with a glass of wine and a bag of chips and just unwind. And while I understand that, I also just want to encourage you to get present with why you are turning to food, if food is actually the solution at all. Maybe the solution is setting time in your calendar for midday the following day and focusing on you and just checking in with yourself about how you're tracking towards your goals. Did you get your workout in? Did you make yourself a salad that you planned to have? So instead of feeling bad that you actually didn't take care of yourself during the day and using food to fuel that emotion, maybe what you can do is make a plan for the following day to do better. And we're always just doing that. We're just trying to do better. And so the cycle of eating at night doesn't necessarily change overnight. Certainly didn't for me. I tried to cure my nighttime eating habit so much so that I wasn't just allowing myself to do it. So instead of what I used to do is I used to go through the cabinet and it was like bing, 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 bing. So I'd have my salty treat first and then I'd go to my kids' cookie. Then I'd go look in the freezer. And so it would be this like continuous meal, right? Because I ate like a rabbit all day long. So I was going, trying to go through all of the things in the cabinet. Because first I wanted the salty crunch. Then I wanted the sweet. Then I wanted something chewy. And it was like, I wasn't actually, at that point, I was hungry because I wasn't eating. But then I realized that actually I can allow myself this empowered indulgence to plan for having chips at some point during the night. Some nights I don't have them. Some nights I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I planned for it. But then I realize I actually don't want them. And I'm like, cool. I'm good. I don't need them. But if we allow ourselves the opportunity to maybe have it, maybe we can approach it differently and it doesn't need to be this continuous meal where we're eating one thing after the other, but maybe we just plan, okay, after dinner, I'm going to have a decent dinner and then an hour or 2 hours after dinner, I'm going to have a little bit of oatmeal before I go to bed. How much better is that? Maybe we have 200 calories versus going through several bags of treats and taking in like 1,200 calories after a really low calorie day, right? We end up, actually, what ends up happening is we end up eating more calories in the evening than we would actually eat if we had all of our meals throughout the day. So I gave you a couple solutions for attacking your nighttime eating. I hope these tools will help you to start to unpack your nighttime eating ritual. And I hope these things give you back your power a little bit and give you some real solid solutions to try to see what works best for you. In a full-length episode coming up, I'm going to be bringing you through my system to help you get unstuck from some of these habits that are holding you back. And that system is called the Check Your Pulse system. Super excited to bring you through that. It's going to be one of those episodes where you're going to want to take out a pen and paper and maybe play it back. If you're listening in the car, you might want to play it back, but it's going to be a really great journaling type of episode. All right, well, I hope that you give some of these tools a try, and please be sure to let me know what resonates with you and what feels good for you. Maybe you try one or two of these things and they don't work out for you, but I actually want you to just give them enough time to see if they work. Don't just try them one day and say, oh, that method doesn't work. I just want you to give yourself about a month and try one or two of these tactics and see if you might be able to unpack the reason behind your overnight or your nighttime eating and how you might be able to tailor it back a little bit so that you don't ruin the progress that you're getting throughout the day. I'd love to hear from you. Log in to the Facebook community. It is totally free. It's where we're going to just talk about the tools that I give you in these episodes. And so you'll want to go to facebook.com/BP Confidence Club. And that's where you will join the community and we can just chit chat about all of these things after the episodes. Can't wait to see you there. And I will see you next time on the Be Powerful podcast.